Eclipse OpenJ9 community meeting. As always, please add your name and affiliation to the attendee list just so we know who's been joining the calls. And I'll pause here while people are doing that to give everyone an opportunity to add any extra items to the agenda. If there's something you want to tackle today, either recording is let us know now or add it to the end of the agenda and we'll tackle it in the any other business section. I'll just pause for a minute. All right. Then we have a lightning talk scheduled for next week. Lan, we're looking forward to that. Are there any other people who would like to propose lightning talks for upcoming community calls? If there's a feature you've been working on that you think would be a good thing to talk about, an interesting piece of technology that's been added recently, then this would be a great opportunity to share sort of a quick overview of it. So if there is something that meets those criteria, please do speak up and we'll get you added into the schedule. Let's take a look at some of the recent user-raised issues. We'll focus on the ones that have been opened in the past week. It looks like there's a discussion here around the key tool issue and around the unexpected array index out of bounds. So it looks like there's conversations happening there. Is there any item on this list that we need to deep dive on today? Is there any issue here that needs more attention that you think isn't getting the attention it should be? Okay, then we'll switch back to the agenda. The usual reminder around help wanted issues. These are a great way to onboard new people into our community. So, as you're looking through the code, if you find a small cleanup task or a good onboarding issue, just create an issue for it, label it with help wanted or beginner, and we can use those to help people join the OpenJ9 community. Let's take a look at the download trends from the Adopt OpenJDK project. We look at the download trends for OpenJ9. We see a bit of a spike over the past day or so, which matches sort of what we'd expect. People come back from their weekends to be downloading more, bringing it back up to where it was before. The hotspot numbers are showing similar trends as well. So similar valley and jump back up as well. So is there anything else people want to comment on around the Adopt downloads? Okay. Jump back to our agenda. The next item is our 0.25 release of Java 16. We had scheduled our code split for February 7th. Pete, can you confirm that the split has happened?
Yes, the split has occurred and we've tagged the milestone 1 level.
It's good to hear. So let's take a look at the lease plan and see what's left here. See that we still have 28 open items here.
I think the reality is that a lot of the JIT things need to move out. There might be a few that are still going to be resolved, but probably a lot of these need to move out. But I don't see Daryl on the call today.
Yeah, I don't either. Don't see Marius either, so I have to ping them offline around that. But there does look to be a number of these JIT issues that have been moved forward from release to release that appear to need to move again. The two I wanted to ask about were the vector API, though, the records JEP. Is there still outstanding items for these JEPs?
So for the records, Jep, we need to change the type of exceptions that we're throwing in some cases. So it's a pretty simple fix, but we just have to do it. So once that work is done, then we can close that issue. For Vector API, we are functionally complete, but this is something that we're going to work on for a number of releases. So I'm not sure if we want to close that just yet.
I know Gita was hoping to get some performance updates in, and I think there's still time to do that. So wouldn't want to close that door just yet.
That's more performance updates into the Java 16 release?
Yes. Specifically related to the Vector API.
Okay, so lower risk than to other code.
Yeah. Of course, those would go into the headstream as well. So, we'd see if do testing if there's any issues.
Toby, for the records change, is there an existing PR at this point or issue tracking the details of what needs to change?
We don't have one in the open repo. So the short answer is no.
Probably be good to get something created for that as well, just so we can track it as part of this release.
Sure.
Is there anything else on this list that we should be discussing?
Just occurs to me that I wonder if we're running any testing relating to the Vector API. We're running our OpenJDK tests, but we may not have picked up any tests related to Vector API. I know I talked to Lan about one of the other features related to sockets. Maybe we could find OpenJDK tests and make sure that we're running them.
Sure, we can look into that. This is 1062. So okay, I'll note that.
Just someone look in the extensions repo to see if it's actually been picked up, because that extensions repo doesn't always get updated in a timely fashion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are tests in the extensions repo. I can add a link to them.
Okay.
In this
Great.
issue.
And then we can confirm if there's a target that they already show up in, or if a new target needs to be added. Yeah.
Dan, are you trying to add me?
I am trying to tag you. I was just
LLXIA.
Thank you. Was there anything else in this list we wanted to go over today? Pete, I see this issue you opened that's tagged as a blocker. The DAA load test.
Seems to me it's not really a blocker because there's it was reverted or something. Need to double check. No, that one has I think there's a fix that's imminent.
Right. Was there something else you were going to call out?
I was just going to say that I added one today. There was the new one, the last one in the list. And I tagged Toby. Seemed like something we should take a look at.
Right.
I haven't read any of the subsequent updates, so seems like we're doing something.
Just gonna say we're definitely some activity. So jump back to the agenda. Reminder that the next update or the next milestone build we are targeting is March 1st with the GA on March the 16th.
So I do want to bring up CMake and mixed builds. We could do it now because it's related to the release, or we could wait till the any other business.
Why don't we tackle it now?
Okay, so for CMake, all the changes are in, and we've actually enabled CMake by default, even in our release builds for Java 16. That means that we're ready to switch to mixed for JDK 16, and we actually ran the nightly build last night with mixed enabled for JDK 16, and believe there was any problems found. So I'd like to discuss switching our release to use mixed builds. And also, not just switching the release, but switching JDK 16 and JDK 11 to use mixed by default, which would involve hard coding how we do the testing for those releases. So you wouldn't be able to test the old style releases. Every build would use mixed, and the test would run using mixed, assuming the builds were mixed.
So would the plan be to call the builds what they are currently called without the XL extensions everywhere? And
Correct.
then use
builds
the
wouldn't
-X
change.
options? Yeah. So the testing will need to suddenly run a load more nodes, presumably.
The testing, we'd have to change how we're invoking the testing so that we would put in some conditional code that says, if we're testing JDK 11, if we're testing JDK 16, we know those builds are mixed, so make sure the testing is running in the mixed mode.
Which means we set platform value at the test build triggering time to be mixed, so that the auto detection will not fail later on.
What parameter is that then?
Platform. So I add
Yeah.
Let me paste the issue in the chat.
Thanks.
So if we don't want to change the test name, this is the easiest way we can do, is try to add the build triggering time or test build triggering time. We change the build platform parameter to be _mixed.
Yeah.
And then once we've fully switched to mixed, then we can just remove that part of code and using the default platform that's generated by the AutoGen job.
Yeah.
So I think we wouldn't need to merge this PR. We would do it in a different way. All the adopt builds would kind of be forced to build mixed and test mixed.
Yeah, I can just amend the PR to do what we wanted to do.
Right. I mentioned this PR.
So my only concern with this plan, since all the functional stuff seems to be working, at least for the tests we're running at OpenJ9, my only concern with this plan is related to performance. I don't have a picture of all the performance work that's been done to ensure that mixed builds are going to be performing well.
And I presume you're talking about some internal performance runs that you have.
Well, yes, except that I'm not sure that there's any performance runs for JDK 16. So the performance would probably be done on JDK 11. and we'd assume that JDK 16 is similar.
Similar, yeah.
And I also want to, sorry.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Peter, go ahead.
And I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, well, I assume there was some performance work done already to sniff test mixed builds and make sure that they were done. I don't know if there's anybody on the call who can talk about that.
I believe Sharon did some perf work, I think, on x86 Linux.
Yeah, I can link the issue. There's various perf work that was done for that. There was some startup work, and then there was some GC throughput perf work as well. I'll just paste the link in the chat in a second here.
Can you give us a quick summary of what the results look like? Were the results on par, or is there still work to do for performance?
That was a while back, so I don't specifically remember, but I think it was relatively on par. There might have been a slight regression, but it wasn't significant enough to have to put in extra work. That's what I remember, but I'll have to review the results again in the issue to give a more specific answer.
Okay, but that sounds good. That's the kind of answer we're looking for.
Okay, awesome.
What I was gonna mention is that once we switch to mixed system test and OpenJDK test, we would expect double the duration, the test duration, because we're running one SDK with both options, compressed ref and non-compressed ref. I don't know at the job whether we need to increase the time, whether there's a timeout set up or we need to increase that.
Yeah, so we're managing the OpenJ9 builds have been running mixed for JDK 11 for a while, over a week, I think. JDK 16 just last night, it's definitely putting more of a load on some of our machines. The machines run longer into the day, and I've had to turn off some of the other builds. But we're managing.
Are you running mixed plus? I don't know what the word is. Non-mixed.
No, we're only running mixed.
Okay.
Well, so it depends on the version. So for 11 and 16, since last night, we're only running mixed. And then for 8, we're running non-mixed. But it really depends on the build. So if somebody's running an OMR acceptance build, because it's a combination of 8 and 11, it's running non-mixed. If we go through with this plan to make mixed the default, then all of a sudden, any build that we're running for 11, no matter how it gets started, will be mixed.
Right. I mean, it should, in theory, reduce the machine load because you're only doing one build, but the same amount of testing. So.
But we're not doing the same amount of testing because we've chosen which testing to turn on and which testing not to turn on. So in some cases, we might not build large heap, or we might build large heap and only run certain tests on it. Whereas mixed forces us to run all the testing for everything.
Yeah, but the fallout at adopt, I think, Simon, is that instead of having compressed ref and non-compressed ref test runs, we'll have one mixed test run, and within that test run, we parameterize and run the two modes.
Yeah,
right.
That's what I was expecting.
So it won't be the exact same. It'll be slightly higher. I think looking at what I'd seen, some builds will go from 2 hours to 3 hours, but we have one less build. So
right.
where we used to be 2 builds running 2 hours each, in some cases it's going to be one build with 3 hours.
Yeah, so you'll have more free machines doing nothing, and then the machines that are running tests will take longer.
Except that we can turn on parallel
Right.
As well now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then so back to the point is will affect system test and OpenJDK test duration.
Thank you. Does Adopt have a concern with us making this switch for the release and for JDK for the 16 release and the 11 release?
Only in that I'd rather personally that if we're going to do it, we do it now.
Yeah. Now that
we're running out of runway.
Yeah.
Well,
now that we have the milestone 1, maybe we should get this running and tested before it's a big surprise during release week.
Yeah, I agree with that. So the code change for JDK 11 is ready. It won't take long to make it for 16. We just need the test change ready. So I'm thinking today or tomorrow we should be able to do this.
For the current pipelines that we run, will they still work, or do we just need to turn off until we change all the build script?
Adopt will have to turn off all the large heap builds, which will require a change.
We can even delete them.
And I can adjust my PR to do the test platform hack. So I think that's all that's needed on the adopt side other than the test stuff.
Yeah, we just need to add a if.
Since we're using all the same build jobs and everything, we shouldn't have any file name changes or API changes or website changes as far as I would assume. But
That's why to try this out now in case we get surprised. But yeah.
Yeah, all the discussion is captured at that issue 2441.
So the only other question would be, is it worth doing 16 before 11, or since that goes out earlier?
I think we just do them both at the same time.
Are there any other concerns with this change? Footprint concerns?
Alerting
package
users
size concerns?
to happening concern. We'll need something to add to release notes to tell people that it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, if someone from the OpenJ9 team can help add words around this for when we make that blog post at release time.
Yeah, so the actual release isn't till March 16th or so we've got more than a month, so we'll take care of stuff like that.
Yeah. And then I guess footprint, we do keep one build artifacts on the build machines. How much bigger is this one mixed build compared to the other? I think Andrew Leonard has been looking at this because we're also adding the hotspot debug image stuff. So we've been doing some clearing out of artifacts that we keep in a build pipeline.
I believe the build's actually smaller.
Oh, okay, great.
Well, sorry, it's bigger than a single compressed rest build or a single large heap build.
Yeah. But the two together, because we won't have both, storage shouldn't be an issue.
We'll also have to follow up with Dinakar around the Docker builds, as they will likely need changes as well.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Would they need changes? Or would we just only build the one?
I don't think we heard your entire comment, Adam.
Sorry, I was going to say, would they need changes, or would they just only need to not build XL anymore?
I think not building XL for sure. I'm not sure how they gate completion of that, if they allow things to be uploaded before some platforms are available or not. So at minimum, this requires a conversation with Dinakar.
Yeah, even just creating an issue in the Docker repo to make sure there's communicated that a change will be needed. If that change is just removing XL and that's easy, then great. If it requires more, then so be it. We'll be able to flesh that out in the issue.
Do Docker builds only happen at release time? Are there any nightly Docker builds?
I know that there are things that get pushed to the unofficial Docker repo, not at release time, but not a nightly cadence, and those are usually based on if some OS has a security fix or something. They're not based off of our nightly builds of OpenJ9 or Hotspot.
So what you're saying is they're rebuilt with the same release, but with a newer OS version? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to drop, but I guess Simon, the Docker update is that Simon has got the M1 builds for 16 done. And tomorrow we have a kickoff of the Eclipse Adoptium working group. We'll talk to everyone later.
Thanks, Shelley. Right. I'm not hearing any concerns or objections to making this switch. So I'm in favor of getting this completed for 16 and 11. Just pause for one more minute here to give anybody a chance to register any other concerns with this.
I'm not sure we have all the right people on the call, but in my opinion, we should go ahead with it.
Yeah, I think we
That's going to expose any problems earlier, and we always have the option of backing out.
So my only question is why we're not doing this for 8 as well.
So that's because we could do it for all platforms but Windows. We still don't have CMake support for Windows JDK 8.
I have a PR open on 8 that adds the Windows support there. It builds locally fine. Sometimes I found it when I was launching internal builds, it was a thing where I couldn't find the Dia SDK thing, and a patch in OMR that gets that, but I haven't fully tested that one yet.
Will I easily find that PR?
Well, I mean, I think there's only like 2 PRs open on JDK 8.
Yeah, opened an hour ago.
Yeah,
So I
right.
can kick off, or Keith or I could kick off some PR testing there, and we'll see how it goes.
Right.
Take it from there.
All right, so it sounds like we have agreement to move forward on 11 and 16. We should follow up with the JIT team as well, just to make sure there's no concerns from VJ or from Daryl. And sounds like we should move forward with this.
So if that PR lands today, do we do all versions?
I think we do 11 and 16 for sure. Given we haven't done any of our own testing on 8 yet.
It seems to be Adam has turned on mixed builds for JDK 8 internally.
Oh, okay.
For everything except for Windows, yeah.
And we've done the same investigation on them as well. The performance, same level of performance investigation, and
No, I don't think so. I don't think any performance investigation has been done by the perf team for JDK 11, like it's in progress. We don't have results yet.
I don't have a strong stance on 8 because we're further out from a release that would include 8. So if it makes sense to do it at the same time and it's not going to impede the changes for 11 and 16, I think that's great. We can make that move as long as we have the option to back out of it.
What state is heading? Or 17?
I would support doing them all, including 17. It simplifies the test story and will
Yeah, quite.
shake down any issues in 17 along the way.
There'll be less if statements all around the build scripts. Do them up.
Is 17 ready to go then as well? Or is there still patches that need to land there?
No, it's ready to go. It should work. I don't think it's actually been tested, but it should just work. Same as 16.
I agree with Pete.
What I'll probably do after this call, we're due to run a JDK 17 acceptance build, so I'll just switch that to use mixed and run it with mixed.
Anything else on this topic? Adam, do we have an update on the, I'm assuming the update Shelley gave on adopt covers anything critical that we need to discuss there? Then, Adam, do we have an update on the infrastructure?
Yeah, nothing too much to report. There was the AX machines were offline earlier this week, but that was a short time, so nothing else that I know of.
Thanks, Adam. Babneet, is there an update for the OpenJDK method handles work?
Yes, Dan. So for OpenJDK method handles, we have been tackling functional issues. I think standalone failure issues for all the extended and sanity functional tests have been opened. And there are, I think, I opened a total of 15 issues. Some of which I think we know we have a fix for them. So a PR will be opened for those failures soon. And we are still not able to enable Eclipse CI builds for OpenJDK method handles because we are still waiting for 2 JIT PRs to be merged. I'm hoping that those 2 PRs will be merged by the end of this week. And by early next week, I can try to enable Eclipse CI builds for OpenJDK method handles. And this sums up the update for OpenJDK method handles. I'll pass it back to you, Dan.
Thanks, Babneet. Given we've discussed the CMake migration, is there anything else in here that we need to go over today?
We could get an update on ZOS.
Yeah, so most of my time was porting over the changes, patches needed for 16 and 8. And I'm now swinging around this week to addressing the comments and PRs to get ZOS up and running.
Thanks, Devin.
And thanks, Devin, for getting all the CMake work finished, and Sharon as well for 11.
Yeah.
Don't see Marius, so we'll skip the next one. Microjit. Not sure what the date for the next one of these is. I don't see Scott on the call, so we'll have to follow up. I know it alternates every Thursday, but I'm not sure if this is an on week or an off week. And given we've already discussed the mixed refs builds, is there any other business to tackle today? All right, then if there's nothing else, thanks everybody, and we'll meet again on February 17th.
Thank you.